You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't go with other boys. And don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to say. And please, when I go out with you, don't put me in display, 'cause you don't own me. Don't try to change me in any way. You don't own me. Don't tie me down, 'cause I never stay. I don't tell you what to say. I don't tell you what to do. So just let me be myself. That's all I ask of you. I'm young and I love to be young. And I love to be free. To live my life the way that I want. To say and do whatever I please.
Now, isn't that beautiful travel? Yes, we all know that there'll be pent-up demand, that will carry us into recovery. But then how do we turn that into beautiful travel, which is the subject of this panel? And I'm very pleased to have with me on stage, we have Ma Paez, co-founder from Solo Female Travelers. We have Nuno Guerreiro, who's Regional Director, South Asia, Oceania and Chains for Booking.com. And we have, dialing in from Bangkok, Thailand, Laurent Kuenzle, CEO for Asian Trails. And we'll wait. Laurent, how are you?
Hi, Hoon.
Sawadee
Good, thank you.
Sawadee ka. How are you? Good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with an audience poll for us, right? And we're going to ask the audience, never mind about flight shaming or rail bragging or whatever, when the doors open, they are just going to travel no matter what. So we're going to ask the audience the question, revenge travel will rule over beautiful travel in the short term. A, totally, people have had enough of languishing. Maybe because there'll be pockets who think more about the travel that they do. Or no, because humans have really learnt their lesson. So very quickly, is it an A, B, or C from each of you? Laurent, what would you pick?
I'm an optimist, so I would say A.
A, okay. Ma?
A.
A?
Well, I'll stick with the hay then.
All right, we have an A team here. This is fantastic. So let's go to Laurent in Bangkok. And, your business is heavily or was heavily dependent on Europe. And so we are counting on you to tell us what are the intent or signals that you're getting from your tour operator partners in Europe for the fourth quarter, especially since Thailand, Phuket has reopened. I heard Krabi just reopened today. What are you hearing from your partners?
Yeah, so the full concentration at the moment is on Phuket, so that sandbox model that started at the beginning of July, where under restrictions people can travel to Phuket if they are vaccinated and they can stay on the island without having to go into quarantine. There's a similar model, a bit more strict in Samui. And the government just announced today that the Phang province, so the adjacent province to Phuket, where islands like Phi Phi are located, that people will be allowed to travel there as long as they have spent the first 7 days in Phuket.
Right. But what kind of demand are you seeing from Europe?
So the demand, of course, is very little at the moment because the restrictions are very strict. So the island saw about 12,000 tourists in this month so far. We at Asian Trails, we handled 137, which is very little considering what we usually have. But it's the first tourists we have seen since the beginning of the pandemic. So we see it as a step in the right direction. But of course, much, much more has to happen. The country really has to open up for people to come back.
Clearly, I've got an invitation to go to Phuket, and I'm just waiting for Singapore to lift its quarantine requirement on me before I get on that flight. So now let's go to Nuno. I mean, Booking.com, you collect masses of customer signals and intent. So tell us about what you're seeing about travel demand, not for now, but, for the fourth quarter or into 2022.
Yeah, well, I'm a strong believer that demand and travel demand will be coming roaring back. So is it going to be Q4? Is it Q1 or later on? I think that will vary per country. Certainly, travel restrictions, vaccination rates, and some of the other, health standards that we also have will impact that ability and how it will vary per country. We have seen the trend, and we have seen positive already uptick and those green shoots in APAC, in Australia, in China, in India, but we've also seen the reverse of that, right?
Right.
The openings, but the shutdowns.
Yeah, so we're seeing like stops and starts, and then, I think we're all sort of getting used to it, right? And the great thing is if you have a global business, then you're quite diversified, right? If something shuts down, something grows up here. So that balances it out.
Yeah, certainly. And
Okay.
if we look at it, it's almost like for me the demand drivers, and it will continue in the next coming quarters.
Okay.
Will be based like what I say the 3 Ls. So first, local domestic demand. Second, leisure travelers, and then for third, then land ground transportation. So really people
Okay.
moving around in cars, taxis, getting to their
Right.
destination.
Okay, so let's go to Ma and see if she agrees with you. Solo female travelers, you started out, with the original intent of creating small group tours, right? But then everything had to be put on hold. But you have now sold and activated some groups, and you are going on the first group. Tell us about the groups that you sold out on this year.
So this year we are starting in October. We're going to Iceland. And in fact, the first trip was sold out quite quickly. So this week, hopefully today or tomorrow, we'll announce an immediate departure for which we already have a wait list that's longer than the spots. So we know it will sell out again. Okay. And then in November, I'm going to Tanzania with a group to Tanzania. Iceland is a relatively easy place for Americans. Most of our audience right now are Americans. And it's easy for them to go to Iceland. It's very near, it's affordable, no visa requirements. The restrictions are quite straightforward. Tanzania is obviously a long-haul, complex flights, especially now with fewer routes being covered, more restrictions, more requirements. And so it's a smaller group. But for next year, we already have sold out departures for 12 months from now. To Tuscany, to Barcelona, to Tanzania again in May, starting. So we have really a lot of interest, and some of the destinations being sold out within a week.
So you're basically targeting right now customers from the US and Europe, and less about Asia, unless...
Well, we have no customers from Asia because Asia is fully closed to travel. So
hopefully by September, which the Singapore government has announced, that we may be able to travel. So, we live in hope during COVID. That's all we've done. So we're going to go to the audience polling, and basically everybody says, 53% of people say people have had enough of languishing, so they kind of agree with your A. But then, there are a percentage that say maybe there will be pockets who will think about the travel they do, just as Juliet has talked about, So now let's go to Laurent again, and we're going to talk about the changes. So what I'm curious about is, because the customer demand is coming back, but the type of customer demand may be changing, the customers may be changing, and you are changing your product and features to, go for this demand. So Laurent, what are the 3 big themes that stand out? Is it very similar to what Nuno said in terms of the products and features that you're offering your customers?
Well, from my side, really what I see is a very, very clear trend towards sustainable products. Whatever that means. Of course, sustainable has different meanings for different people, but there is very much a drive to giving back to the community and to feel good about it, to feel good about travel, to give something back to the people. So sustainability products, excursions, tours, multi-day tours, that's going to be very much in demand. I believe that family travel is going to be big, family travel and also small group travel. I see it not in bookings because we have no bookings, or very few bookings at the moment because our countries are closed. But the few requests that we see coming in, we see a lot of requests for 3 rooms, 4 rooms. This would have been 1 and 2 room requests before. So I think that really is another trend that is going to materialize. And I'm a big believer that villa products are going to do very well. when Asia opens up. So villas associated with hotels, but also individual villas, villa resorts. I think this is also going to kick up very quickly.
All right. So Nuno, I mean, the trends are going to be kind of similar, but browsing through booking.com, I mean, I see your obvious COVID-19 support, right? But I also see ShopBack, which is a big development right now in online travel. And so is this a hygiene factor now in online booking, ShopBack kind of features? Where price still obviously matters?
Obviously, price matters a lot, right? So we've always go back to location matters, price matters a lot, and we have seen from the surveys we have done, like the Future to Travel, and with our consumers, that price is significant in terms of making that choice. So it's important that when we're working with our partners, we're also saying, obviously, health and safety, it's now you should see it as it's in your background. So obviously people want to insure, but it's not their first thought anymore. Maybe it was last year.
Yeah.
This year,
people expect it now,
exactly.
right? It's like a hygiene factor now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And therefore, we need to really think about what sort of deals you're going to promote. What exactly segments are you trying to attract within leisure? Is it families? Is it smaller groups? It's individual couples? And tailor obviously your offer, but also your experiences when you get those consumers to the location,
right,
and how you're going to actually entertain them there. So that is going also to be important. And of course, ShopBack and other programs are going to remain important. So I don't think that will go away anytime soon.
Right. Laurent was talking about villas, private accommodation, and I'm sure that you are seeing that trend with solo female travelers too. Now, Booking.com, you are putting a lot more emphasis in that alternative accommodation category now too, right? And that's where you're seeing most of the demand right now versus hotels?
Well, certainly we see a very strong demand on homes and the home-like product, so the vacation rental segment. And honestly, that's something we have been working with Booking for many years. So it's not new. We've always seen appetite from consumers to have both accommodations like hotel accommodations, and then you can go from that resort to a villa or a bungalow somewhere else, and depending on what's the type of experience. But the good part is actually when you go to our platform, it depends on really your taste. So you can go for
you have
both.
a buffet. You have a buffet, which, by the way, you don't have events anymore. So, I'm interested. Laurent, this is interesting for you too, and please feel free to chip in, with the conversation. I don't want to forget that you are in front of me as well. So, you seem to sell your tours by destinations, not experiences, which I find quite interesting.
It's because we are trying to offer what we think our customers understand. So, if I say Costa Brava, people might know it less than if I say Barcelona. So we are saying Barcelona, Costa Brava. There's little time spent in the city of Barcelona because we feel this is something you can easily do on your own. But we use that as the headline because that's also the airport. It's what people will recognize. And because we try to give a flavor of the destination. So we have a combination actually of country, meaning like Mongolia or Sudan, which are countries because we pretty much cover most of what's there to see, versus regions like Tuscany or Barcelona, Costa Brava, or Uganda or Tanzania, which are also countries. So we kind of do a big tour of 10, 11 days where you see quite all of it. But we are focusing on what people we think understand and recognize.
It's the easiest to sell, and they say,
it's more like from a marketing point of view, what is the headline that they understand.
And Laurent, what do you think about selling by experiences versus destinations?
Well, I think people always first decide on a destination. They have to decide where they want to go. I think so. Is it something that really appeals to them? Is it a dream for them? They wanted to go for a long time, or is it something that just pops up? They say, "Oh wow, this sounds great. Let's go there." And I think then they will be looking for an experience. There can be some exceptions, like if you want to go on a luxury train, for example, you might choose the train between Singapore and Bangkok because that is going to be that specific niche product, if I may call it such, that you are going to do. But I think the destination comes first.
Right, okay.
And we see that in the group as well. People will say, I'm going to Costa Rica. Where should I go? And it's like, well, what do you like? But people really think about the destination, and then they'll be able to be convinced about what to do in the destination. They want you to tell them what's there to do.
Right. Okay, so Laurent, you talked about, sustainable products being a big theme in what you're offering for the next season, when travelers come back in 2022. You told me that charters to Thailand in end of 2022 are pretty sold out, right? you got operators asking for allotments, right? So
Yes, I mean, it's of course a much smaller capacity than it usually is. I would say probably around 30% of what it was in 2019. But if conditions are right, if restrictions are lifted, then these people are going to travel because bookings are there, yes.
Okay. So I want to pick up on the theme of sustainability for your groups, for example. Does it feature at all?
Absolutely. For us, it's critical.
And people, you don't charge a premium. You just say this is part of the whole experience, right?
For us, it's part of the mission. Our mission is to empower women to travel the world solo, safely, and on their own terms. And we always make sure that we educate our members. So we do that through the community. We have had experts in the last 18 months come and talk about sustainable travel, animal conservation, animal tourism, zero waste travel. We had one on carbon offsetting and carbon literacy a couple of weeks ago. We use that as like a way to educate our community, and in our trips we incorporate it, obviously, because for us it's part of the offering.
So it's about raising awareness and
we put it in the packing list. We'll tell you, please bring your bottle of water.
Right. And really, helping the customer ask the right question, actually.
We feel like they want to do the right thing, but they just don't know. So we allow conversations that we know will have a lot of lack of knowledge.
All right. So you allow a lot of conversations in your safe environment. And booking, I know that you have got sustainability criteria now for picking hotels and all that. What else are you doing? Are you seeing in your when you have a sustainability feature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing people actually using it, or what is the customer intent telling you?
Yeah, indeed. I think the essential is how, there's so much noise around, and when you're actually traveling to, like the journey that you do in selecting your next accommodation, your next destination, you have so many things in mind, right? So that might not be the first one, but you want to make the right choice and you want to make a sustainable choice, depending on what it means to different people. But how you communicate that to people so that they're able to take that choice, that's the key. So we've been creating, for example, working with our partners, and we have over 30 different official certifications that are global with global entities. But also recently we've seen it's not just those global certifications, but how you also support the small steps and initiatives that our partners have. And we have now, I believe, up to 32 different features of where you're doing efforts on waste management, energy saving, so on and so forth, that you can display and provide that information to consumers. So
I just feel like travel is just so complex. Laurent, I don't know if you agree with and when I listen to this as a consumer, I get completely confused. And sure. I wonder if we're going to do to sustainability what we did to flight pricing, where it's like pricing here, pricing there, and you don't know this ancillary here. There's so much complexity. So how do you make it simple as a tour operator?
As you say, it's very, very difficult to make it simple. But I mean, if I look at the history of, my company, what we have been doing in the last 20 years, we've been doing so much sustainability because we went into destinations that really you had no choice but to go local, and you saw these communities who had nothing. Of course, it was almost automatic that you were helping them to benefit from people visiting their country. We didn't call it sustainability at that time, but this is really what it was. Now we have literally hundreds of such projects throughout Asia that we have been supporting for so long. Now, just to categorize this as sustainable, it would be very difficult in the context of an excursion or of a multi-day tour, which is the business that we are doing. So we have created our own mechanism. We call it ESTEAM principle. So eat locally, stay eco-friendly, transport alternatively, and so on. And for a tour, for an Asian Trails tour to be categorized as sustainable, at least 3 of these criteria have to be part of either the excursion or the multi-day tour. So this makes it clear for the customer what he's getting. But the message is also that sustainability is a journey. It's not just an objective.
Yeah. For sure. And it's great to see individual businesses like everyone now I'm talking to at least doing something about it rather than just kind of talking about it, right? So I think we are at the right track, and it should be like sustainability should be just part of your breathing. It should be part of, it should be the oxygen of your business anyway. So I want to go to Laurent again, and you are, Booking.com and Solo Female Travelers, they are direct consumer brands. You are largely a B2B brand. But, we have consumers now really, COVID has basically pushed consumers online, buying direct. So how are you adapting to this consumer direct movement?
If I look back again historically, 10 years ago, lots of people in the business were telling me, well, if you are not going B2C, you are going to be dead in 10 years from now. Well, I'm still here. I have grown substantially. Of course, my business has also changed substantially. And I had to adapt and do things differently than what I did in the past. So I still believe that the traditional business has a life, particularly specialist travel, but of course also tech platforms online. And there I see me as a DMC creating own products, operating own products. At least 80% of what I do on my own. And then the distribution of these products through technology. So say I have an excursion in Hanoi in Vietnam, for example, I'm selling it through tech platforms. So I sell it, I connect systems to amusement, for example, I connect to Viator. And these are then companies that are going to connect to a company like Booking.com, for example. So indirectly, of course, I am connected to the end consumer through technology, not on an exclusive basis. I think the time for exclusivity has changed for basically all of us. But I'm there in a strong position to sell my products.
Yeah, and I think when recovery comes, which we are waiting for, it's going to be really tentative. I think the customer is going to need a lot of hand-holding, a lot of reassurance, and therefore, that's why I think they will still trust specialists, right? They will go to specialists and companies that give them the right information on which to make the right decision. So, Nuno, Booking Holdings, making lots of changes. You're working on the connected journey, adding flights, and then now you're creating a separate fintech division to handle payments, right? So this is the road to the future.
Yes. And well, look, at Booking, our mission is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world. And we strongly believe that part of that is building that connected trip. And to do so, it's essential that we remove friction out of travel. And that friction may come in very well, and actually with COVID we see it. If you book your accommodation and you book your flight and maybe you book an experience, but suddenly your plans change and you have to cancel that or you have to change. And therefore you have to go to a certain agent or a different stakeholder and another customer service and wait online. That's what we want to work on and remove. That's a sort of transformation that we're working towards.
Right.
We're not there yet. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but we believe that's the right thing. The second element on the fintech, obviously if we want to take that friction, payments is essential. How do we empower in our global e-commerce platform a payment structure that allows a consumer, a traveler, when we can again make long-haul travel, go from China again to Paris and visit the Eiffel Tower.
And again, travel is really, really complex in the payments, right? Multi-currency, going to pay local payments and all that. So now, Mar, you basically you started your community in Facebook groups, and you now have more than 100,000 members, right? So what I see your model is like content. You create a lot of content, you then create community, and then commerce. How long is the road to commerce?
Commerce meaning trips, I suppose.
Well, money.
And course. Well, 2 months. 2 months we are going to Iceland, right? So no, for next year we have planned between 20 and 25 departures. So hopefully next year. But there's also another monetization avenue for us, which is courses, right? Learning. It's very important for our members. And because we have the content element, we have 4 businesses, 4 pillars, and they're completely independent. A person can read our articles on the website and get the knowledge that way, and maybe that's the only contact point with us. They can be members of our group and never join our trips, never go to our website, just mingle with other women. They can come on our tour, and many of our tour's members are actually not in the group. They don't read our articles. They They
They just want to travel.
Yeah, they just want to travel. So there's like literally like 4 different businesses, and obviously the fourth being courses, right? Each
Okay.
of them is a way to monetization.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up with rapid fire, and I want to pick up on the theme of under-tourism, which Juliet Kinsman covers in her book, and basically she's talking about, if you always wanted to go to these obvious places, why not try an alternative, which I thought was quite interesting. So can each of you name one place you would recommend that's an alternative to the more obvious places? So Ma, I'm going to
Actually, when I saw this question, I thought like that's perfect because that's exactly how we sell our Sudan trip. Go to Sudan instead of Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll go with Timor-Leste. I'm Portuguese, so it's one of those bucket destination lists that I have.
Timor-Leste, okay. And Laurent, if I were
For
to go...
me, I mean,
If I were
if,
to...
if
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to ask you a specific one, right? If I wanted to go to Cambodia and I didn't want to go to Siem Reap, where would I go?
I think everybody who goes to Cambodia wants to see Angkor Wat. So I don't believe that people are going to go to Cambodia for the first time and not go to see Angkor Wat. So what I would rather say is make one day to see Angkor Wat and Bayon, the temple with the beautiful faces and so on. But then add another 2 days. Go outside of Siem Reap. There are lots of temples. There are lots of other things that you can see. You can even stay in small towns if you like. And go up to Khao Pravihan, for example, that famous temple on the border between Thailand and Cambodia. You go there today, there is almost nobody.
Well, actually, when I went there was nobody too, so that was fantastic. Okay, what is the most unexpected local discovery you've made during this period when none of us have been able to travel? Ma?
Hawker food.
Hawker food?
Pulau Ubin.
Pulau Ubin, okay. And Laurent?
A lovely small guest house of 4 rooms on the Chao Phraya River in Bangkok, just 15-minute drive from my home.
All right. And so what's your idea, since this panel is about how do you turn revenge into beautiful travel, and we have the responsibility to create beautiful travel. What's your idea of beautiful travel, Ma?
For us, beautiful travel is connections. It's the connection between our members who come alone and they come for the community to meet like-minded women, and also the connection with the local women at the destination, which for us is very important.
Okay, Nuno?
Yeah, I think it's essential for us. Like travel, it's a beautiful thing, and actually, when you travel, you grow. Expand your horizons, you learn. And I believe that beyond maybe yourself, when you actually travel, and a beautiful thing is you grow with the community, you actually have a positive impact. That's what we're here to do.
Okay. And Laurent, what's your idea of beautiful travel?
I think it's people, people that you didn't know, be able to interact with somebody who thinks completely different than yourself. I think that's wonderful. Different sceneries are absolutely beautiful. Nature, be alone on a boat, on a sailing boat on the ocean. I think that's just simply wonderful.
You couldn't stick to one, because I was going to say, if you say it's people, then why do we only sell places? Maybe we should be selling the people of the places. So thank you so much, you beautiful people. Thank you, Mar, Nuno, and Laurent for joining us in this, this conversation about how to turn revenge travel into beautiful travel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Segun.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Laurent. Bye-bye. Stay safe in Bangkok.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Take care.